Of itself, Brexit is unlikely to have an effect on English contract law. However, Brexit may change the way in which certain parties need to discharge their obligations. So, for example, there may be issues around tariffs, around custom clearances, and around exchange rate, and all of those need to be considered for the contract. The question that needs to be considered is whether the contract will continue beyond Brexit, or if a new contract is coming into existence, how that will be dealt with. It is going to be important to assess the risks that may be involved, and in particular, whether there are obligations placed upon you or upon the other side. So one of the key things to think about is whether or not the obligation is going to be ongoing, whether the contract can be terminated at fairly short notice, and the risk can therefore be managed. But let's just assume you have a long-term contract. There are a number of things that you need to think about as to how the risk will be apportioned. In the absence of a specific mechanism to be able to deal with an event such as Brexit, it may be necessary to look to the existing terms of the contract. For example, force majeure and frustration are phrases that have been used to counter Brexit. However, it is very unlikely that Brexit in itself will amount to a force majeure event, and it's even more unlikely that frustration will enable one party to walk away from its obligations. It will, however, depend, as far as force majeure is concerned, as to the drafting and whether there are events that arise outside of Brexit, although arising due to Brexit, for example, delays in customs clearance, that may excuse one party from dealing with its obligations. But the reality, more likely than not, given that Brexit is foreseeable, or certainly has been for the last few years, is that force majeure may not assist. One of the options that is being considered is the inclusion of a Brexit clause. In effect, a then-if type mechanism. If this event were to arise, so there was going to be problems caused by Brexit, the contract would include a mechanism to enable some form of adjustment to be made so that one party is not unfairly penalised.